Steel and Shadows, Chapter 1, Arrival at Ironspire. The rusty freighter jolted and shook as it made its descent towards the Ironspire spaceport. Davin Kline sat by the narrow window, his hand gripping the armrest of his seat, staring wide-eyed at the enormous sprawl below. It was far more than he had ever imagined, a sprawling labyrinth of towering structures, packed streets, and flashing neon signs stretching as far as the eye could see. Ships of all shapes and sizes zipped across the sky, and even from this distance he could make out the massive lumbering figures of mechas working on the docks. "Are you seeing this, Lira?" Davin asked, his voice a mixture of awe and nerves. Lira Kline, his younger sister, was busy tightening the straps on her well-worn tool belt. She barely glanced up from her seat, but the excitement in her eyes betrayed her calm exterior. "Yeah, I see it. It's big, it's noisy, and we're about to be dropped right in the middle of it." The freighter's thrusters roared as it hovered above the landing pad, the clang of metal feet meeting the dock floor rattling through the hull. The ship's pilot announced their arrival, but Davin was already on his feet, dragging their single duffel bag out from under the seat. Lira stood next to him, adjusting her leather jacket, her sharp green eyes scanning the rowdy crowd exiting the ship. "Ready?" Davin asked, trying to steady the quiver in his voice. "Ready," Lira replied, with a confidence that settled her brother's nerves. The two stepped onto the landing pad, immediately assaulted by the thick air of Ironspire. The atmosphere buzzed with the hum of machinery, the shouting of dock workers, and the distant roar of a nearby mecha engine test. The towering figures of loading mechas shifted crates the size of a small home, their hydraulics hissing as they moved in precise, powerful motions. For Davin, this was more than just another spaceport. This was the beginning of something bigger. He had grown up piloting mechas back on Tesara Prime, but there, mechas were just tools for mining and hauling. Here on Ironspire, they were so much more. They were power, prestige, glory. "Look," Lira said, pointing towards a nearby repair bay, where a line of combat mechas stood in various stages of repair. Her eyes were wide now, excitement overtaking her earlier calm. "This is the real deal, Dav. These mechs aren't built for mining, they're built for war." Davin nodded, his heart pounding. "This is where we make it, Lira. I can feel it." They made their way through the crowded streets of Ironspire, dodging vendors hawking their wares, and pilots swaggering in and out of the various bars and shops. The city was a maze of metal walkways, dark alleys, and towering structures that seemed to grow out of the ground like jagged steel mountains. Above them, massive holo ads flickered, advertising everything from mecha parts to weapons upgrades in arena matches. Davin couldn't help but stare at one of the massive screens as it flashed images of towering mechas locked in brutal combat. "Glory in the Ironspire arenas," the ad screamed in bright, pulsing letters. "That'll be us one day," Davin muttered to himself. Lira elbowed him in the ribs. "Focus, Dav. We need to figure out where we're going to sleep first."